event. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm Sara. It is an event by Women in Immersive Technologies together with the Goethe-Institut Montreal. Just a little bit up front, we were hosting already quite some meetups in Altspace VR as a community, Women in Immersive Tech, since COVID-19 hit. But we also noticed that we exclusively have guests from Europe. And as we think there's nothing more valuable than exchanging and collaborating over borders. And physical borders can be overcome so well through this medium of VR/AR. So I was approaching the Goethe-Institut Montreal with this idea of initiating a meetup together that is aiming at international exchange and exchange over borders. So this is basically the first event in a series of events that we will plan alongside interesting conferences or events from our partners and collaborators that joined this initiative. I'm a creator and a designer and a VR enthusiast since the Oculus Rift DK1 was released in 2013, and I'm a strong advocate for human-centric approaches when it comes to creating meaningful VR content. I cannot thank all our partners enough to go on this exciting journey with us. All you partners are really what brings this to life and makes it a really valuable exchange between people from different communities and backgrounds. So I'm really, really happy and proud that we're all coming together here. I want to give you a short overview of the event flow. We're first going to get the chance to listen to some introductions to this event series before we're going to hand over to the presentations of our two speakers, Ylva Hansdotter and Connie Kuang. So Tatiana is the person that organized a big part of this initiative. And yeah, thank you, Tatiana, so much for all your enthusiasm and your constant support and structured approach. But I want to thank you most of all for taking the risk and making this plunge to pull off this event series together. Your care and curation and your extra sharp eye at initiatives around inclusion need are just invaluable. And yeah, thanks so much for taking this ride together. I'm very happy to have spent the time organizing and planning this with you. And I want to hand over the word to you.
Okay, so I'm pretty new to this space, as you can see. I'm moving around stuff. Yeah. So yeah, welcome and thank you for joining our first social VR meetup in Altspace. And thank you very much for the introduction, Sara. It's been yeah, it's an adventure. I'm pretty excited. As I said, it's my first time here. I'm a program curator at the Goethe-Institut Montreal. And yeah, but before going into all those usual words of welcome, I like to address quickly the current situation in the US because I want to emphasize that the ongoing violence towards Black communities and other marginalized groups is extremely upsetting. And as a cultural organization, I want to underline that we strive to offer platforms of dialogues, such as this one, which offers possibilities for all women to connect with each other, as we strongly believe in intersectionalism, empowerment, and connection. And yeah, in fact, fostering international cultural dialogue and exchange between Europe, Germany, and Canada is an essential part of our mission as a cultural institute. And this is why we are so happy to initiate, together with Sara Lisa Vogl and Women in Immersive Tech, these social VR meetups for women. By opening up this space, we hope to create transatlantic connections and foster potential collaborations between women working in the creative industries and around immersive technologies. I just want to say quickly something about today's topic, because the idea is that each meetup circles around one certain topic, and today is Anthropocene, climate change, and human impact on space, which aligns with the Goethe-Institut's ongoing project New Nature, an immersive media and climate science exchange between Canada, Germany, the US, and Mexico that we launched last week. And the idea is to associate those meetups with digital or hybrid festivals or conferences that already are all about connection and that and that way create the perfect breeding ground for sustainable exchange. And I would also like to thank our partners that make this happen, Women in Immersive Tech and Sara Lisa Vogl, first of all, for creating like this wonderful space that we are in right now. And I would also like to thank Felix and Paul Studios. Without them, I wouldn't be here because I'm actually using an Oculus Go that they lent me. And I would also like to thank Studio XX and Conseil Québécois des Arts Médiatiques in Montreal. Yeah, and as Sarah already said, we planned these meetups the beginning of this year as like physical meetings in our institute in Montreal in Quartier de Spectacle. But due to COVID-19 and social distancing rules, we had to get creative, and here we are now in All Space VR, and it's a new space. It's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to what's coming next. And I hand back over to you, Sarah.
I'm muted. Okay, so Lean is just going to give us a quick overview. I want to hand you a flower, Tatiana. Like, it's very awkward to trying to hand you a flower when I'm not talking. I'm going to do better next time. So Lean is going to give us a quick overview of why Women in Immersive Tech exists and what we do as a community, as well as introduce some of her other initiatives.
My name is Leen. I'm the founder of, proud co-founder of Women in Immersive Tech, but I'm also wearing a lot of other hats on a daily basis. I'm running a startup called LucidWeb. It's a white-labeled distribution platform for virtual reality and augmented reality content via the browser. Of course, one of the co-founders of Women in Immersive Tech. So the project started actually in 2017. But before, it was already like a very popular Facebook group. But then actually I joined hands with Sarah, Johanna, and Vera to really start professionalizing and thinking about really a vision for the group. Last year in December, we managed to bring it to a non-profit based in Brussels and also set up a website. And in this way, we're continuously thinking about how to move forward with the group. So also today, not only us four founders are working on the vision, but also local ambassadors. So we have now local country ambassadors in 6 countries across Europe. And last but not least, we're also trying to set up strategic partnerships with brands who can support our vision of connecting women and minorities in XR in Europe and empowering them. So last week at AWE US, I actually announced our first strategic partner, which is Facebook. So we're now continuing the conversation with other brands. Last but not least, I'm also a knowledge manager of a project called XR for All. XR for All is a European Commission project that runs until next year. Basically, again, to connect startups in XR in Europe, empower them with workshops, but also with networking events with investors. And as well an open call. So there's 1.5 million that will be distributed across startups across Europe. So I'm going to leave the floor to the next speaker. Thank you, Sarah. So I can just take this. Okay. Yes, I have it. It's lovely.
You have it? Well, all right, great. Thank you so much, Lee. Move ahead to Olivia. Olivia is a multimedia artist engaged in questions about identity. Her ongoing project is entitled Visual Islands, Post-Colonial Hybrid Identities and Virtual Reality, building her own experience as a white Euro-Jamaican and past research in the portrayal of hybrid identities in contemporary Jamaican culture. She's exploring how these identities can be represented in VR. Back in the left corner, you can explore some of Olivia's work. You can see back there. But today, she's also here on behalf of Studio XX, who are one of our partners for this event. We're super happy and proud to have on board as a collaborator. Thank you, Olivia.
Cool.
The stage is yours.
So thank you so much for having me, Sarah and Tatiana, and all the wonderful new people I just met from Women in Immersive Tech. I have a few different things I want to share, but I'm both here as a participant and someone who's actively like an active member of Studio XX. I've been very fortunate to work with them, work with the fantastic team there on multiple occasions, and both as an artist exhibiting, doing residency or doing a residency, and also being offered the opportunity to teach, to lead, should I say, workshops that allow people to explore how VR can be activated from a creative perspective, thinking about technology, but thinking about the colonial legacies and also the feminist legacies in which these technologies function. So behind me, well, obviously behind me, on the slide you're seeing one of the workshops that was given, I think, actually twice by the Montreal-based studio Casarara, which some of you might know already. And this was using Quill, I believe, and I think on one occasion they invited the Montreal-based artist Paloma Dawkins, whose work you may have seen already, Museum of Symmetry, which is in the slide and available on multiple VR platforms. So I wasn't involved in that workshop, but I just want to share the different types of offerings that Studio XX has been putting together. So maybe, yeah, this is another workshop that was given by the Toronto-based artist CC Powers, who's actually a friend and whose work I really enjoy. And that was part of HTML, which is a fantastic festival, which you'll hear more about, I think, later in the year. This is a workshop I gave earlier this year in January, so before COVID, in collaboration with a local developer called Martin Desrosiers. And we had a group of interdisciplinary participants from sound, from actually very different practices, multimedia, visual, I think some architecture. And we allowed them to explore different options in terms of creating 360 video and then putting that into the 3D software Unity, the game engine Unity, should I say. And it was really exciting to see in a few weeks the different approaches that were activated there. It's possible that we'll do another one of these workshops, but I'll tell you more when that happens. And maybe, I'm not sure if you can go to the next slide, Sarah. Yeah, so this is a little bit about my practice. I'm currently exhibiting, thanks also, by the way, Sarah, for the lovely introduction. I'm WIIT presenting women from the Caribbean and from Europe, from France and Jamaica, and I have been exploring virtual reality since 2015 with the DK2 as I recently moved to Montreal and I started my journey towards the PhD at Concordia University. This is a piece I have currently in VRAM, which is a all online VR festival that's happening right now as we speak in the Museum of Other Realities, for those of you who are familiar. And if you have the chance to go visit, I'd love to, invite you all there. There's several talks today, several talks tomorrow, and there's some really exciting artworks that the Museum of Other Realities have put together really well in that space. But essentially, this is just a snapshot of my website. You're welcome to take a look when you get a chance. And maybe you could go to the next slide. This is a commission I did. I'm a visual artist. I'm also, I've created commercial projects in collaboration or commissioned by different clients. And this was a really fantastic project I did a few years ago. And yeah, I can go further into that, but just to show you the diversity of my approaches. And then I want to highlight the fact that through Studio XX, I'm very fortunate to be exhibiting with the Black Quantum Futurism Collective, which you can see a snapshot of their website right here. I don't want to speak for them, particularly in this time where many voices are being spoken for and not being given enough space to speak from their own perspective. And so I have not yet physically met the collective, and I'm looking forward to connecting with them in an online talk that happens, I think, on June 18th through Studio XX. I invite you to look at their webpage and the incredible projects they're working on, both as artists and as activists. And here, if you take screenshots right now, you can follow this up. So I'm lucky to be exhibiting with them in an exhibition called named Quelques Ellipses, some ellipses. And Sarah very kindly put some of the images of my practice that is currently showing in that exhibition behind you on the wall. And so yeah, I invite you to have a look at the Studio XX website for all the information. Ultimately, I'm not a team member of Studio XX. I'm an active member, but I have a lot of fantastic experiences with the different team members there, and I invite you to check out the different ways in which CDXX does incredible work, both as a studio space that creates a space that exhibits, a space now online that creates connections, and also offers a lot of activities for families, so using a feminist perspective in media technologies to offer different ways that both artists, professional artists, and people interested in technology, from children to teenagers to adults, can come together and create using these latest tools. So yeah, I think I've reached my time limit. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah. So I'm open to any questions if you have any, and thanks again, Tatiana, for being, I don't know how you do this, but you do so many things. I'm really impressed. So thanks for having me here. I appreciate it a lot. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Olivia.
Yeah.
Can you take the floor?
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
not. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
sorry.
we need to up our flower game, I noticed. So thank you so much for these great introductions, everyone. And now we want to go over to our presentations for today. And we want to start with Ylva. Ylva is the founder and director of XR Impact, a nonprofit organization that leverages technologies like VR and AR to extend human sensory and cognitive experiences. All this with ambition to inspire positive global actions towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And she's also a PhD candidate at SmartLab, and she focuses her research on the use of positive and immersive storytelling to stimulate pro-social actions. Ylva is also a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on VR AR, through which I had the pleasure to work with her. I'm very happy she's here today. And so Ylva, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So happy to be here and meet you, everyone. So I'm Ylva. I'm currently in Stockholm in Sweden, and it's actually our national holiday today. And I'm happy to be here to celebrate with you. And I'm going to talk about whether VR can make us better humans or not. And I strongly believe so. And I will share with you why. Some of the reasons, at least. First, I'm going to start with the beginning, so you know where I'm from. So the first time I tried VR, I was blown away by how immersive it was. My physical and emotional reaction, I wasn't prepared for that. And I have a background in behavioral science, so I became interested in how to use VR to stimulate behavioral change. So in 2016, I started working with HTC Vive in San Francisco to help build Viveport, the app store with a high focus on non-game experiences. But still, most experiences were games and still are games, unfortunately. But we all knew that there was like this huge power in VR. And I got the opportunity to start a program that I named VR for Impact, supporting VR developers, creating experiences with social good, with social benefit. So after launching, within 2 weeks, I received 1,400 applications from developers who wanted to launch or had already created experiences with positive societal impact. And when I left, after a couple of years, when I left HTC Vive, I decided that this was what I wanted to focus on totally. So Sarah, please, next slide. I started a not-for-profit company, XR Impact, and with the purpose of creating and supporting experiences towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but also fundraising for this platform, Be Earth, that is our sort of first product, where we are collecting and creating experiences around the 17 global goals. And we launched our first experience around the climate goal, climate action number 13, in Davos, this World Economic Forum annual meeting. So we have started, but we're just in the beginning. Next slide, please. As Sara mentioned, I'm also doing a PhD around how VR can make us better humans. And even if, I mean, we see all the glitches here, and it's quite hard to be in VR for a long time period. But research in VR has been ongoing for decades, and I'm also looking into research in other areas like behavioral science and also neuroscience to see and how we can leverage this medium to actually help us become better humans. And now I'm going to go into what I think are like 3 of the superpowers of VR when it comes to behavioral change. And as you can see, they are here in perspective taking, embodied cognition, and self-representation. So Sara, please. So there are a lot of VR experiences already out there that are trying to use VR to create or stimulate behavioral change by helping us change our perspective. And VR is really, really, really good at perspective taking. So the ability to actually transfer us and make us understand someone else. And it's been shown through research that it's more important for us to understand someone else than actually having their feelings. So when we talk about empathy, it is the underlying understanding that is important, because when we tend to feel empathy towards the ones that are familiar to us, the ones we understand. And in VR, we get help to understand those that are totally different to us. People, plants, objects. So it doesn't have to be other humans. So this is really interesting. And some of the first experiences out there, like immersive journalism pieces, you've tried probably Clouds Over Cedra, and the first one here of the young lady Hannah, it's from a 360 video called Displaced, where you follow the lives of 3 displaced youth. And today, more than 30 million people are displaced, and half of those are children. So it's really important to get like this perspective taking out. But others, as you already know, probably are taking this perspective taking even further. You do not only visit somebody, but you actually become someone. So, for example, this other part of the slide is from another experience, and it is actually from a study where offenders got to embody female victims. And I don't know if you know that, but today at home is the most likely place for a woman to get killed. And 50% of all killed women are killed by the hands of their close ones. So this is a huge problem everywhere. And it is really hard for somebody who is not a woman who has these kind of behaviors to understand how their behavior is perceived. So there were made studies showing that convicted domestic abuse offenders, they couldn't see fear in, they couldn't classify fearful women's faces. So they even have the bias. So when you do like these emotional recognition, you look at a person, are they happy or sad? So they couldn't pin down fear. Instead, they had a bias towards classifying fearful faces as happy faces. But after being embodied in VR as a woman, their emotional recognition became in line with the control group of non-convicted men. So it really made this difference on just understanding their behavior and reading other people. So perspective taking is really one of the strongest, like our understanding of others are really one of the strongest predictors for taking social action. We relate when we understand, and when we understand, we help. Okay, sorry, next slide, please. So, but it's not only, VR cannot only like change our perspectives and our understanding. It can not only transfers to another place, but it can actually change us. So it can change how we perceive ourselves, like who we are. I talked a little bit about embodied cognition, and it is the notion that our body controls the mind in the same way as our mind controls the body, the interconnectedness of it. And in VR, as we can move around and we can be as in real life, it is actually easier for us to understand and start empathizing. I don't have time to go into this now, but there are a lot of studies showing that it would take us approximately 20 seconds for us to accept something like this digital avatar as a physiological part of our body, and we start reacting to it as if it was our own. But not only do we feel like those digital avatars are us, we start associating ourselves with the characteristics of our avatar. So there are plenty of studies showing that we change depending on our avatar. So one of the first studies made, or one study, is you go in VR and you are Albert Einstein. And when you go out in the real world and you do a problem-solving test, you actually perform better than if you had another avatar. So it's sort of positive visualization. I was smart in VR, I'm probably smart in life. I was good in VR, I'm probably good in life. So up here you see Voldemort and Superman, and that was another study being made. And it showed that people, so there were two tests, and the participant didn't know they were related. So first they had to do a gameplay, 5 minutes, as either Batman or Superman, and Voldemort. And afterwards, there was another test that wasn't supposed to be related at all. It was a blind tasting test. And they had also to prepare for the next human participants of that blind tasting test. So they got to pour either chocolate sauce or chili sauce. And as you might expect, the ones who had embodied Voldemort poured almost a double amount of chili sauce, and way more often chili sauce than chocolate sauce, and vice versa. So even if it wasn't related, even if they stated that they didn't think that being embodied in a good versus evil person had influenced their behavior, it actually did. And I have studies reconfirming this. So it's really, the phenomenon is called the Proteus effect. So it's also like the height and attractiveness of your avatar can predict the performance in a game, etc. So it's really interesting, so that all of these things show that we can create a better world in VR, go in there and then actually transform ourselves out back into the real world as better people. We do not know, we know that it lasts in the real world, we know it lasts for a couple of months, we haven't seen the long-term effect, and yes, it can of course be used in a negative way, because this is really hardcore manipulation, and it could be used for good or for evil. I'm going to just round up with the last slide about the experience, the Be Earth experience, and how we use, so last slide please. So this is from the Be Earth number 13, and we try to use all of this research in creating the experience. So the experience is about you come and you see Earth, and you select goal number 13, and you're transported into the Amazon rainforest. And I don't know if you've seen the news, but it's burning more than ever. And you are actually transformed and you become Earth. So your avatar changes depending on where you are in the scenario. So if you can see the hands, no, I don't have a, yeah. You can see the hands, you transform and you are wood, you transform to water, you are fire. And in one scene, there is a fire coming, and there deforestation, of course, that's the story. But since you are water, you can use the water to put out the fire. So we try to work with all these elements that you take the perspective of actually becoming Earth. You're on a journey, feeling and seeing what she sees, Mother Earth. You are also on a hero journey where you can use your own powers to do good and to put out the fire. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Ylva. Yeah, we cannot really clap our hands in VR. That's like a different thing, but good that we have some emojis. Here's a flower for you. I don't know if you can take it.
No, I can't.
God damn it.
I tried.
Maybe you can pick it up.
I tried. I'm trying. No, I can't.
No. Okay, that's kind of sad, but thanks for trying. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Ylva. And now we want to go forward to our second presentation for today from Connie Kuang. It's going to be an AMA. So we are first gonna watch a trailer from Space Explorers, and then Connie is gonna answer your questions around the project. Connie leads marketing and publicity at Felix and Paul Studios, overseeing the studio's presence in the tech and entertainment industries, as well as the launch of its productions. And since joining the studio, she has launched 3 new experiences, run the studio's last Primetime Emmys campaign, and managed projects arriving on the Oculus Quest for the first time. Currently, she's focused on the launch of the Space Explorers franchise, kicking off in fall 2020 and expanding into 2021. Thanks so much, Connie, for being here. We are all going to first watch the video together, and then we can unmute everyone that has questions through the hand raises. Here we go.
I woke up on the first morning on Space Station, not quite knowing where I was, but I was floating, and I thought I had this dream, and I realized, no, that dream was a reality. I just launched to space the day before. I didn't need a lot of coffee that morning.
Adapting to life in space. It's been a process. Got here initially, I was crashing everywhere. I was losing everything because everything floats away from you if you don't put it in your pocket or use Velcro to tie down or maybe an elastic bungee. And I was looking at our colleagues who have been here several months, wondering how can they be so efficient and so in control of their movements. Well, lo and behold, after a couple of weeks, I became myself, found myself surprisingly to be very efficient now moving around. So your body can adapt to this strange environment of microgravity.
For thousands and thousands of years, humans have lived with gravity. We live our entire lives feeling gravity. All of our systems are functioning in gravity. Working out in space is very important. We actually call exercise countermeasures because we are countering the effects of microgravity on our bodies. When astronauts first started flying long-duration missions, astronauts were losing the same amount of bone density in a month that an osteoporotic 80-year-old woman was losing in a year. And we had to come up with a countermeasure. We talk about the International Space Station as a proving ground for future deep space exploration. Now, imagine if we had skipped this proving ground and we sent people to Mars and then we discovered it and we couldn't fight against it. So that is just one of the many problems that we're solving here on the International Space Station to enable future deep space exploration.
We have the privilege of being sent to the frontier of the bubble in which humanity lives. And as representatives of our species, and as explorers, and as people who have the chance to be executing these great plans that thousands of people on the ground have sweated over to make sure that we can accomplish our mission, which is mostly scientific.
I believe that human beings have a propensity to explore. From the earliest times, humans have looked out and said, what's out there? We went across lands, and then we went across oceans, we took to flight, and now we take to space flight.
And that is really what human beings are. We are the result of every little step of exploration, of discovery, of invention, of creativity, be it artistic or scientific or technological, that has preceded us. And that is the world that we live in.
When we look back at Earth, we don't see borders, we just see land masses. We don't see differences, we see similarities. We feel above any nationality or any other group that we may identify with, we just feel so human when we are exploring the cosmos.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. As Sarah very nicely introduced me, I am the lead of marketing at Felix Paul Studios, and it is my first time in AltSpace VR, so this is really this is great. As much as we work in virtual reality, a lot of our work is in cinematic, and doing social VR is certainly very thrilling and new, so it's great to be here with you. Just maybe a bit more before. Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted to share a bit more about the project, maybe until we go into questions. This is actually a project we started in 2016, and there are 2 episodes of this series that we created on Earth following the training of astronauts through NASA and Roscosmos. And I wanted to let you guys know that it's available in the Oculus Go and Gear and Rift right now, and it's coming soon to the Quest. So you can see our first 2 episodes there and really see what was the foundations of the project that led us to this point here, where we were able to collaborate with NASA further and amazingly put the first professional VR camera into the space station and do this multi-episodic series. So yeah, so maybe with that, I'm happy to, I guess, take questions however we want to moderate. Sarah?
So I'm just going to go ahead and unmute the people. So one of the things that came to mind for me is that with the latest mission of SpaceX coming to the ISS, I think we saw a lot of buzz in the media and in the news lately. So what does that all mean for the Space Explorers experience? I think it's the first time that Americans went up to the ISS by themselves through SpaceX. So if you have some input on that side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. The really fascinating thing about this project is, you know, there's 2 aspects to it. There's the immersive medium that we're using, which is quite unlike anything else to capture this experience of being in space. I think you guys noticed, even in a 16:9 trailer, having that 360 raw material and that source for us to film from really gets at a feeling of floating unlike any other. So really, you know, imagine having that in virtual reality as well. And so, of course, that's a really compelling part of the project. The other one is the content that we're capturing. And to your point, Sarah, we have this like firsthand seat to really historic moments that are happening in space right now. There's such an inflection in the space industry that we're observing right now, with commercial crew happening. Like you mentioned, you know, this is the first launch from US soil in almost a decade. Not only that, it's the first launch with a commercial entity, a commercial company like SpaceX, and Boeing is just about to happen. So it's quite incredible that we're up there. We've filmed 8 different astronauts now from 5 different countries, different space agencies. We're now filming the first SpaceX crew, and we're charting this journey that we're taking as humanity, as, you know, those that are really becoming an interplanetary species. And with all the activity of us now getting ready to send more people to the ISS and then to the moon, it's a really incredible time in our history. And I think I find so many connections with what, you know, Ylva was saying in the previous presentation, where virtual reality is really helping to share that experience and help take us all to space and, you know, collectively get us ready for this experience and really make us think, you know, what does that mean for humanity? And, you know, Anne talks about it a little bit in the trailer about this feeling of the overview effect you get when you're in space and realizing how we're united as global citizens when you're really just out there staring at this one rock that we're from. And if we're able to get that kind of feeling and that story across the experience, I think we'd be so thrilled with that.
Thank you so much. I was muted again. So, do we have any more questions?
I have a question. This is more a bit
Yeah.
technical. So you put the 360 cameras in the rocket, right, in space. So how do you teach the astronauts how to operate them and save the content, or how does it work?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another great question for sure. So of course, this isn't a typical set, and you hit the nail on the head. So what we did was we sent up our 360 camera on cargo in late December 2018. And from the space station, our astronauts are everything in one. They are our crew and they are our cast. And so they are the ones that help us physically set up the camera. You know, they're kind of all the roles in a film set collapsed into one. Of course, when we're filming, there is ground support here. We've created a software system that allows us to kind of see generally how the cameras are positioned. And so from here, we can do a viewing and kind of work with the director and the whole team to make sure through NASA terminals we're communicating and making sure the camera is set up in the right place. But yeah, ultimately, the physical individuals that are handling the camera are definitely our astronauts. And it's a very different experience from being able to film live and on set on Earth.
So you live stream from space as well, or how does this go? Because you said that you can see where the cameras are positioned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it's a bit mind-blowing. Like, I understand live streaming internet from Earth, but like, how does it work in space?
Mm-hmm. So there's a series of cameras that are up there in addition to our 360 camera. And so we use a cross-section of getting a view from one of those NASA cameras so that we see our camera in context and we're able to kind of orient that way. But, you know, in parallel to that, we also get a view through our 360 cameras, and it's what we call low panos. They're like a low quality feed of all of the different lenses. And we do get a sense of a snapshot of how the cameras are being set up. And that software technology was built by our team to be able to interface with NASA computers and NASA terminals to be able to downlink that data. Because as you can imagine, the approval process is not direct to the point where we can get everything immediately. So it is something that we work with collaborators such as NanoRacks. They kind of help us. They're an entity that works with NASA from a media perspective, and it's a whole network of communication and visuals that we go through in order to get our view. So we set up the camera before it shoots, and then actually when it's rolling, we don't see anything. It's all blackout. And so after things are shot, we can get some quick snippets down from space, but again, it's quite low quality. So once the footage is completed, we get the high quality downlink, which takes a couple days down to Earth. It then goes through a review and approval process with NASA, and then it comes in-house for us to actually see in high quality and stitch together. So a bit of a process, but it's amazing that we can get any of this from space.
That's great. And how far are we from live streaming from space? I don't know. I'm just asking.
We hope we're not far. Yeah. It's certainly not too crazy of an idea that we've been talking about ourselves.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Connie, I have a little planet for you as you're exploring space, so maybe that I thought would be a bit more fitting. I don't know if you can actually grab it.
I don't know how I can grab this.
Bad situation that we had before.
I appreciate it. I love it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, so
you're off the moon, Connie. What's happening?
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here and giving those insights. And I would also like to open it up to general questions to the other speakers that we had today. Ylva was actually, I just cut off her Q&A. So if there's any more questions to some of the speakers that we had today, I'm very happy to take those, of course, including Connie, if you have more questions regarding space. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really, really enjoyed this last hour that we had together, and I hope you did too. Thanks for all the emojis. I feel the hand clapping, literally. Okay, great. Yeah, feel free to ask more questions, and then feel free to just network and be here together.
Cool.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question for Ylva.
Hmm?
Because it's interesting that on your aspects of bringing the connection with the avatar in VR and how is that socially impacting us. How do you see that different versus gaming, right? Because gaming is also a part of it. Of course, it's 2D, it's not immersive, but do you see that more into the emotional side, the connection that we have in VR? Is that different? How do we do that, and how is that different versus gaming? Because the gaming has a bad connotation as well at some certain aspects. And do you see that different in VR?
Yes. So two things. One is gaming versus non-gaming. One is virtual reality versus non-virtual reality, right? So when it comes to virtual reality versus non-virtual reality, I mean, all communicative platforms can influence us greatly, but virtual reality brings new capabilities that makes it so much more powerful than any other technology we've ever had before. This is the most psychologically powerful platform we've ever built. It is, and we can even say that it's more impactful sometimes than reality, because we don't have the limitations of reality. You can do things, you can be things, you can be places where you couldn't before. So in terms of platform, it is super powerful, and it doesn't have to be the best graphics or the coolest setting. It can be really, really rudimentary scenes and like 360, and we see these psychological effects anyway, and it's both interesting and scary and wonderful at the same time. So we need to have an eye on what is happening and ensure that the medium stays and becomes even more inclusive, and that we know what we're doing and be deliberate when we talk about it. If we look at gaming, gaming is really good at also stimulating behaviors and influencing. And so it really depends on what kind of games you're talking about. When I was saying that most of the experiences out there are games, means that they are not designed with the purpose of actually creating behavioral change. There are some things like some levels you can turn to ensure a greater behavioral change, such as, for example, ensuring that you feel embodied in your avatar. And you can do that in games, and you can do that outside of games. But then in a game, if you have a positive gameplay where you're the hero, that is really positive. That will make you a better person, probably. And the reverse is true. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, sorry, I was like trying
to... Good. Any other questions?
Well, if there's no more questions, and I mean, Ylva is maybe still able to stay for a while. I'm not sure, because it's your public holiday, and I think you're about to have some family dinners.
Yeah.
But maybe she's around for a bit longer if you still have questions, and otherwise I would just open it up now to like a networking and just like connecting together in the space here.
And Sara, will this be a repeating event, or how
yeah,
is the Goethe-Institut also thinking about that?
Yeah, great question. We are planning throughout 2020 have more of these events on the sidelines of other conferences. Will be specifically announced on, of course, our network, our Facebook group. And thanks, actually, I see a lot of familiar faces from our Women in Immersive Tech group. Thanks all for coming. And then also our partners will share that event again to really enable that international exchange that we're aiming for. Cool. All right, everyone. Let's have some drinks, I would say. Like, we cannot have virtual drinks, but you know what I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sara.
Thank you, Sara, for
Thanks a lot.
That's great.
Should we do a photo op on the stage with everyone?
Yes. Great idea.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Everyone on stage.
Oops.
Oh, sorry.
Got some floaters.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
Sorry. Hey, oh, sorry.
That's
Oh my gosh.
Sorry,
Super
sorry,
weird.
sorry.
Sorry, I'm
great.
Mhm.